I'm Tammy.
Sitting in my car, the silence inside was absolute and heavy. I watched as the chaos unfolded across the street. The grand opening of what was supposed to be my sister Lisa's dream flower shop and champagne bar had turned into a complete disaster. The city inspector was there, the landlord was furious, and the bank representative was ready to pull the plug. It was exactly what I had planned, but I didn't feel joy. I just felt the cold, hard satisfaction of a long-awaited victory. I remembered it all started on a fateful night when I was 300 miles away from home, in a sterile hotel room in Boston. I was working a corporate job as a risk analyst at Summit Risk Solutions, which paid the bills, but my real passion was my bakery, Rose and Loaf, back in my hometown. It was past midnight, and the air conditioner in my room was making a loud, annoying noise that kept me from sleeping. I was still awake, poring over risk assessment files when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was Jake, my night manager at Rose and Loaf. Jake never called. He usually just sent quick texts. Something was seriously wrong. "Tammy, you have to help. There are people here, and they're breaking in," Jake whispered, his voice trembling. I felt a chill run down my spine. I told him to call the police and lock himself in the office, but he said they had keys and claimed I had given them permission. I switched the call to FaceTime, and what I saw made my blood boil. My bakery, the place I had poured my heart and soul into for years, was in shambles. The old brick oven, which I had restored with so much love and money, was smashed. Standing in the middle of the wreckage was my sister Lisa, wearing a fancy dress and holding a sledgehammer. She was smiling, like she had just won a great victory. Behind her, my parents were walking around as if they were touring a new investment. My father, Henry, a man always full of big ideas but short on practicality, said, "This place has potential. It's time for a change." My mother, Carol, who was always more concerned with appearances, added, "The bread smell was so overpowering. Flowers will be much nicer." I was speechless. I tried to reason with them, but Lisa just dismissed me. "Numbers are all you care about, Tammy. I have a vision for this place. It's going to be a luxury flower shop and champagne bar," she said. As I looked at the destruction, I noticed an old recipe book on the floor. It was my grandmother's, torn in half. The sight of it made me realize that this was no longer just about the bakery. It was about my family's callousness and their long-standing pattern of taking advantage of me. For years, I had been the responsible one in the family. When Lisa had her phases, like the time she wanted to open a photography studio or a candle-making business, I was the one who bailed her out. I worked long hours at my corporate job and then spent my nights and weekends at the bakery, saving every penny I could. I thought Rose and Loaf was my way of proving my independence, but to my family, it was just another asset to be exploited. But I wasn't going to let them get away with it so easily. I'm not just a baker. I'm a risk analyst. I knew how to predict worst-case scenarios, and I had seen this coming. 6 months ago, I started preparing a Plan B. I had hidden away important legal and financial documents in a folder named Tax Stuff 2025 on my desktop. Inside was a sub-folder labeled Backup Plan. I decided to play along. I told them I would sign the transfer of operating rights agreement. I hired an attorney, Mr. Thompson, a sharp-witted man who charged a high fee but was worth every penny. I asked him to draft a document that looked like a surrender, but was actually a legal trap. The agreement offered an initial operating fund of $15,000, which would be released to Lisa upon signature. But the catch was that any unauthorized spending would be considered a misappropriation of funds. And I also included a guarantor clause for my parents. If Lisa caused any damage, they would be liable. As I expected, Lisa and my parents signed the agreement without reading it properly. They were so blinded by the $15,000 that they didn't notice the fine print. I then moved the bakery's payroll funds and tax savings to a secure account and left only the $15,000 in the operating account. In the following days, I watched as Lisa started her grand renovation on Instagram. She hired an unlicensed demolition crew, made illegal gas line modifications, and advertised a champagne bar in a building that wasn't zoned for alcohol consumption. I collected evidence of all her violations, knowing that it was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. On the day of the grand opening, I parked 2 blocks away and watched the spectacle. The place was decorated with balloons and roses, but I could see the signs of structural failure and safety hazards. Just as I had planned, the city inspector and the landlord showed up. The inspector issued a stop work order, and the landlord threatened eviction. The bank representative also informed my parents that their home equity line of credit was in default because of Lisa's illegal activities. When Lisa tried to blame me, Mr. Thompson stepped in. He showed the signed agreement and a video where Lisa declared herself the owner and made all the decisions, proving that she was fully responsible for the mess. Back at the law firm, the internet was filled with negative comments about me, blaming me for ruining Lisa's dream. But I didn't care. I knew that the real battle was about protecting my brand, Rose and Loaf. I sent a cease and desist order regarding the trademark and decided to focus on my wholesale business. I met with Jake and my head baker, Lily, at a coffee shop. I told them the truth about the retail location being lost, but that I had secured lucrative distribution deals with local hotels and grocery stores. I also leased a new commercial kitchen in the industrial district. Now, as I stood in the new kitchen, surrounded by the warm smell of fresh bread, I felt a sense of freedom. I had cut ties with my family, who had always treated me as a means to an end. I was no longer the one they could rely on to fix their mistakes. I was the captain of my own ship, and I was ready to sail into a new future.